Hello, this is Mark Smith with Family Tree Counseling Associates, and I'm here with my second video of the week. And this video is about counterdependency, and it's called Counterdependency Gets Passed Down from Father to Son. It is the subject of my blog this week. So check out my blog on our website, familytreecounseling.com. But in my writing group this week, we were given a writing prompt that was a picture. And here is the picture. So our assignment was to just write anything that came up, looking at these two very interesting insects. What came up for me was thoughts about my wonderful son who lives in San Francisco. So this is what I wrote. My son physically is a carbon copy of me. At least a carbon copy of me as my younger self. He has my feet, my height, my chin, my hair. When I had hair, he's hoping that the hair loss isn't part of the family heritage. And there's a bit of cats in the cradle and the silver spoon with my son and I. I worked a lot, too much, when he was growing up, and I deeply regret that. I didn't know that at the time, that time would be gone in what seems now like a heartbeat. It seemed like it would go on forever, that I would have my little guy and my two cute little girls, and that time would go on forever. But he's now 24, and my middle daughter is 21, and my youngest daughter turns 19 next week. As a counter-dependent, I was way too work-focused. While I only worked about 50 or 60 hours a week, the business was always on my mind. And I was not sensitive to the loneliness of my now former wife, nor the father hunger in the eyes of my children. My son now works over 100 hours a week. He's in investment banking in the financial district in San Francisco. Think about how many hours a day it would take in order to work 100 hours a week. And my son does this with great energy, with great composure, and with no complaining. And he is the go-to guy in his office, as you might suspect. When you coming home, son? I don't know when, but we'll get together then. You know we'll have a good time then. Thankfully, there's this magical technology called texting that can deliver to me little snippets of my son on most days. What do you think about us not signing Lance Stevenson? I think it was effed up. What do you think? I usually write the words and not the effed part, but the rest of it. And then I got a text just yesterday or the day before. Did you hear about what happened to Paul George? I was like, no, and I couldn't find it anywhere. But he already knew about it, about the horrible injury that the Indiana Pacers' best player suffered. So my son and I, in these texts, we cover the weighty issues, the weighty stuff of most male conversations, but we also have an added layer of some depth. It is a relationship that comes in tiny little bites, but it is very consistent, and it keeps us linked together like a father and a son should be linked together. I'm so proud of my son, he's slaying San Francisco as a 24-year-old. My goodness. I wasn't exactly rocking Lafayette, Indiana back in 1981 in my first job. I made $11,000, but we were able to save and buy a Chevette. So what a dream life my son has in front of him as he learns to throttle down his work done. My boy's just like me. He's grown up just like me. So men who have small children, I know that there are pressures, financial pressures to provide for your family. And I know that you might have some fears. You might even have a wife who spends too much money. I did not. I had a wife who was very frugal. But trust me, fellas, when I tell you that the time will go very quickly. And I used to take off every Wednesday and Thursday to stay home with my kids when my ex worked many years ago. But as a result, I worked long hours on Monday and Tuesday and Friday and Saturday. And on Friday nights, that was Boy Scout night, Cub Scout night. And we were in a pack, and when it was our turn to host, I would take off work and I would get the house ready and I would think through the activities and I would provide the leadership for the group that night, and I rather enjoyed it. But when it wasn't my turn to lead, I wouldn't attend. When I was in Cub Scout, neither of my parents attended. But in this group, every Friday night, both the sons and the dads attended. And I remember my former wife telling me many years ago that my son cried when he said, all the other dads are there on Friday night, but my dad's not. And my son doesn't even remember that, but that's the kind of stuff that you wish you could do over again, just so he felt a sense of involvement and a sense of bondedness with his father. I mean, we made the soapbox derby and the whole thing, and I was involved, but I could have been involved more. And that's one of the things that I think is a great sign for our society is fathers and men are more involved in the lives of their children in the past 10 years than they ever have been. Because wives and mothers are out working more, granted. So this picture really did make me think of my son, and I'm not saying my son is dysfunctional. His particular industry just happens to be probably the most notorious industry for workaholism. He doesn't want to work those hours, and I am so proud of him. But I've often wondered, how did the fella get that kind of work ethic? Because he has way much work ethic than I do. A lot of times when kids grow up and there's some means, and we weren't wealthy, but we were middle class to upper middle class as my kids were growing up. And a lot of times when you grow up and you're given almost everything, then you lack fire in your belly and drive. I remember my younger brother. Now, we grew up very, very poor. I'm talking about food stamp and free lunch poor. And sometimes there wasn't enough food at dinner time poor. And my brother, a younger brother who's very successful in commercial real estate, he said, I can beat out the rich guys because I'm still poor. And at the time he was a millionaire. But in his heart he wasn't a millionaire. He was hungry and he was driven because in his heart he was still poor. So I was having a discussion recently about leadership, and it was said that the best leaders are the healthiest people in our society, and I don't think that's true. I think some of the most colorful and powerful leaders in our culture have been really strong counterdependents. I'm thinking of Bobby Knight, Bill Parcells, Michael Jordan, Bill Clinton, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs. These are all real dysfunctional fellows, but they've changed the world, and they won championships, and they were the best at their craft. So counterdependence may impact the world, but I think I've been a good leader and have impacted certainly Carmel, Indiana, and saved a lot of marriages. And now through YouTube and through the blog and through our website, we've been able to impact people all over the world through my books that I sell in countries all over the world. But I would trade that for having been a better leader as a father, and to maybe have made a little bit less impact on the world and a lot more impact on my children. But you do your best, and you own your issues when confronted, and you just try to be healthier down the road. So that was my conversation I wanted to say about how counterdependency many times gets passed down. It can get passed down by a son or daughter emulating you. Most counterdependents grow up with addicts, and they grow up with people who drop the ball. My parents, God bless them, they just were two incompetent people that shouldn't have had one child, but they had 7. And so we as kids had to pick up the ball and run with it because my parents just had some real deficiencies. That's where most counterdependents come from. But sometimes you grow up emulating. I think my son saw my brother, his uncle. His uncles were both great leaders and also very successful in business. His aunt was a great leader and successful in business, and his old dad. So anyway, live a balanced life, put love first, put your children first, put your family first. So thanks for watching. If you haven't joined our channel, please join. Family Tree Counseling YouTube channel. We got 1,200 subscribers. We'd like to have 1 million someday. Also visit our website, familytreecounseling.com. You can buy my books on abandonment issues and shame and affair recovery and marital issues and the basics of recovery. And I do have a book on this very subject of counterdependency, and it's called A Punch in the Mouth from a Friend. Counterdependents don't take a little tap on the shoulder. You might need to bust out the whooping stick on the counterdependent and punch him in the mouth with truth. Not physically. Punch him in the mouth with truth. That's the language we understand. So thanks for watching the video today, and God bless.